Hi, it's Paul from Wicked Acorn. We're still in Sale. Well, actually, I guess we're in Stretford right now, and we're still trying to figure out where the Crossford Bridge is. The River Mersey is the historic boundary between Cheshire and Lancashire. Surely, one end of the bridge is in Sale, and the other is in Stretford. This is Cross Street, and this is Crossford Bridge. And right here, oh, this is interesting, BSS's. Those are boundary stones. In 1987, Norman Swain wrote, "Two ancient stones still exist at the edge of the footpath on Cross Street, and the faint inscriptions can still be made out. The one near the Crossford's pub reads, County Palatine of Lancaster, and the one near the garage reads, County Palatine of Chester." It's a good thing he wrote this when he did. The Crossford's pub wasn't much longer for this world. I spoke with Bill Sumner in Stretford, and he said the boundary stone was around here. He was present when contractors smashed it up and removed it. Despite his frantic phone calls to Trafford, no one bothered to come out, so we lost a historic boundary marker. The stone was about 20 inches high and had markings for Stretford and Sale. It was made of red sandstone. The Bridge Inn, where the short-lived Crossford pub was, now the site of TGI Fridays. In the left-hand corner, we can see 3 stones. I think the one on the far right would be the one Swain talked about that read County Palatine of Lancaster. And the one on the left, you can just make out the letters O-R-D. Stretford? Could this be the one Bill Sumner remembers? As for the other one that read County Palatine of Chester, it should have been over here on this bit between the roads, but I don't hold much hope for finding it. That would have been the county border. There was a boundary stone there. It used to be next to the Crossford Turnpike Toll House, directly opposite the pub. So we're in the bit between the roads now, the median, I guess you call it, and the boundary stone on the opposite side would have been around here somewhere. But as I said, I don't hold much hope for finding it or any evidence of it. There's a little fence here to stop silly people from going down, falling in the Mersey, I guess. And I don't particularly want to go down there today because it's been rain for the past couple of weeks, and it's probably pretty slippery. And I actually looked at it from the other side, and there's no way to get anywhere sensible. And I believe this tree is the namesake of Sale, isn't it? Or vice versa. It's a pretty bridge. So we're over on the Stretford side of the bridge now, and I don't need to go crawling around next to riverbanks because there is no bank. It's a pretty steep drop there, and it's been raining so much that I'm sure it's all pretty wet and slippery. And we don't need to call out rescue teams to be saving this silly Canadian from the River Mersey. That's another interesting thing I noticed. In North America, I think we don't say River Mersey. Well, I guess we do say River Mersey, but the word river comes after, like it would be the Mersey River. Like the river I grew up next to was called the Exploits, and it was the Exploits River, not the River Exploits. And most, if not all, rivers are named that way. The river part comes after rather than before, like it does here. Don't know. By the 18th century, the roads were in a sad state. The landowner was responsible for the upkeep of the roads. Able-bodied men were required to provide up to 6 days' work per year to repair roads. This didn't work out too well, so toll houses were set up. There was one here from the mid-1700s to the late 1800s. The River Mersey often broke its banks. One account I read said the bridge in was below the level of the road, and the water occasionally rose to the first floor. If it was, this area seems to have been built up to fortify the riverbank. Taking that into account, the boundary stones would have been moved or buried. John Brodie took out 51 consecutive licenses at the Bridge Inn, and John Miller worked at the toll bar for 13 years. He would often hear a call of, "Ship ahoy!" from John Brodie. This meant that the River Mersey had broken its banks, and Mr. Brodie was once again a prisoner in his bedroom, as the river had risen to the first floor. Miller would have to bring a ladder to release him. So I just noticed this huge tree stump behind TGI Fridays here, and it's quite large, and it was cut down quite some time ago. I'm going to have to check those photos and see if there's any trees. I don't recall any, but maybe there are some trees in the photos to give us a little reference point. That's a big tree. Was a big tree. The Bridge Inn was around here on the south side of the Mersey. It was a favourite place for the people of Sale, especially after hours. It fell under the jurisdiction of Lancashire, where drinking hours were a half hour later than Cheshire. There are still stories of people nipping in for 1 or 2 more at the end of the night. Wait, what? The Bridge Inn was in Lancashire? So it is. This dashed line is a county border, and the border jogs out around the Bridge Inn. The dots indicate it's also a parish border. I think we found an answer. The Crossford Bridge is in Stretford, or at the very least Lancashire, or at least it used to be. Nowadays, both Sale and Stretford are in Trafford, which is in the county of Greater Manchester. But that's a story for another video. The explanation for this goes back to something that happened long before the toll bar was put in place to fund road upkeep. It's the classic case of a guy building a fence, and his neighbor asks, "Why are you building a fence?" while he arrogantly says, "I'm not going to help pay for it." Of course, the proper response to this is, "That's why I'm building the fence." It just goes to show when you have something that's on a border, it's difficult to get both parties to pay for its upkeep. The Statute of Bridges of 1530 solved this. It made one of the counties, Lancashire in this case, responsible for maintaining the bridge and 100 yards of the road either end of it. So let's take a stroll back Cross Street where there's something very interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. Bill Sumner was right. The boundary stone would have been around here somewhere. This has been identified as one of the boundary stones, and I think indeed it is a boundary stone, but not the one that would read County Palatine of Lancaster. This dotted line is a parish border, though I'm not sure what parish it would have been then. Ashton-upon-Mersey probably. And you can see there would be one on the other side for the bordering parish of Sale perhaps. It's too far away from the border to be a boundary stone for a county. Not too long ago, people knew where all these boundary stones were because of a practice called beating the bounds. Now this is such an interesting subject, I'm going to do a standalone video on it. Boundary stones are meant to stand out, but it is just a rock after all. Pretty easy to miss, isn't it? In a time when written records were meaningless to most people, once a year, usually on Ascension Day, the people would beat the bounds. They would get together and walk the borders to instill in their minds where all the boundaries were, an important activity in a time before maps were common. When they came to a boundary stone, they would inspect it, say a prayer, and tap it with canes or sticks. A really interesting story, so keep an eye out for that one. Some things are worth holding on to. The term cross ferry was used here and can be traced back to the year 1367. The earliest records of a bridge here are from 1538. But do you really think the Romans built a road all the way from London to Chester to here, only to have to swim across this bit? The Romans couldn't exist here without the road linking their forts at Chester and Manchester. They had amphitheaters and villas with mosaic tile floors with in-floor heating in this country. A bridge across the Mersey is pretty elementary stuff. There had to have been a Roman bridge here. I'm so certain of it based on no evidence whatsoever that I'm surprised that there hasn't been some sort of fortification found here to defend it. It would have been such an important piece of Roman infrastructure. So the bridge was widened in 1907, and you can see that there's different construction underneath. And just take note of these ribbed stones, I guess you'd call them. The remains of some kind of carved stone there. And it looks like this bridge has been widened as well. You can see two different types of construction there. There was never any Battle of Crossford Bridge that we know of, but it did play a role in war. When Lord Strange came to lay siege to Manchester during the Civil War, he crossed the Mersey at Ashton-on-Mersey Ford. That could only be here, at the Crossford Bridge. In 1745, when Prince Charles Edward was marching south, the government, to bar his advance, ordered Crossford Bridge to be destroyed. The command was carried out by the Liverpool Blues, part of the English volunteer forces raised to resist the Jacobite rebellion. Miss Byram in her journal mentions on the 26th of November 1745 that the pulling up of the bridge at Cross Street was that day being proceeded with. In 1533, John Leyland was sent by Henry VIII into Lancashire to search for ancient writings in the monasteries before Henry started pulling them down. He writes, "I rode over Mersey water by a great bridge of timber called Crossford Bridge." In 1577, the bridge was being taken care of, and the people of Manchester petitioned the Queen to build a stone bridge. The work was estimated at £200, and Manchester donated £40 above this to see it done. The bridge has been torn down, swept away by the Mersey, rebuilt and widened many times over the years. No matter what happens, it keeps coming back. The Stone Age people, the Romans, the football players we worship today, and even that guy that pushes the trolley around. They all crossed over the Mersey here. We've had this version for a long time now. We don't think about bridges often, but they're celebrated in stories and songs because they're our link to the world and the world's link to us. So I'm just getting off here at Dane Road. It's a little closer to our destination, and I was halfway to the tram stop and I forgot my mask and I had to go back. What a pain in the arse. So, does anybody remember the name of this bridge? Might that have been a nameplate?